Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This time it's gonna be the matchup between Highborn Elves and Beast Herds that we played. So two of my friends played this one out, so I have no clue what's gonna happen in the battle. I have a slight idea of the outcome, but otherwise I really have no clue. This once again is the Highborn Elves list, so it's the Mage as a general, the commander on the Reaver Chariot, I think at 3000 points. This is really a good model. Then some spears, some reavers, archers, the flame wardens. Flame wardens are also tough as nails on 3000 points, I think. Knights of Rima, swordmasters, reaver chariots, and the sky sloop. And then for the beast herds, we have a beast lord. He's just on foot. He has Destiny's Call. He has a beast axe and fatal folly. He doesn't have any magic, just to keep it simple. And then basically one of every choice to a certain extent. So you have 25 mongrels with spears, 10 Mongol raiders, then some wild horns, 30 of them, 5 centaurs with paired weapons, and then otherwise, well, it's just a collection of different models basically. And then at the end, still the beast giant with a beer barrel and a Gortag. So the Gortag is the main heavy hitter of this list, I would say. But also the Minotaurs with great weapons. They do strike quite hard. Yeah, so that's going to be a very short introduction because I also don't know too much about beast types myself. So let's get into the battle. I believe at this point, when we turned on the camera, some units had already been deployed, being the Citizen Spears, the Reaver Chariot, I think, and the Flame Wardens. I would say that it's it's a bit of a duality in choices of deployment there. Like probably your opponent already knows that that is gonna happen. That the spears are gonna be in the center, the flame wardens are gonna be on one side, and you'll just mix in some chariots here and there. However, this list you can also play it a bit more evasive with the chariots just threatening a long distance and then getting the infantry in like 1 or 2 turns where they want to be. So that in that sense you could deploy the chariots a bit more forward, infantry a bit more backward, and then they could still go either to the left side or the right side. Whilst in this setup, it's quite clear that the infantry are just going to go straight and, well, they're just going to smash them in the face. Yeah, so I believe at this point the Highborn Elf player dropped all just to go first, probably. He has the Reavers on the flank and the Knights of Rima on the right side in the woods. Knights of Rima, they're really good at low point value games at zoning because they zone quite far with the movement 9. And they also do quite some impact on the charge, more so than a chariot. Yeah, I think it's just a solid battle line setup for the Highborn Elf player. I don't really know why the archers are just in front of the forest on the left. I would have imagined that they could have found a bit of a better use on the right side of the board, but then again, I don't know also what the objective was. I think it was King of the Hill, where you have to prevent the opponent from getting into your selected terrain piece, and I believe that the 2 forests are the selected terrain pieces. So maybe the archers are there because of that reason. However, that would be to prevent. I would guess that that is then the terrain piece that the Beast Herds player has to go to with one of his scoring units, and the archers are not really going to prevent that from happening, I would say. So I would say that the archers are a bit misdeployed, but otherwise the deployment looks fine. Then for the Beast Herds, what I can see is the wild horns in the field, the Mongol herd on the right of them, Gortag in the middle. The Gortag is going to suck up some shooting from the Highborn Elves if possible. However, if he does get to combat and the Highborn Elves don't have that much of shooting, it's going to be quite a tricky situation for the Highborn Elf player probably. You can also see that the Minotaurs on the left side of the Wild Horns, they are in a 1 wide formation, so that the great weapon dudes, they don't really have to be 3 wide because the only thing that you get from that is that you're steadfast. You have a bit of a broader footprint like that, so you take up more space in your battle line. And against any army that strikes first, you might expect to lose one of the Minotaurs anyway, and in the supporting rank, you still get the 3 attacks from the Minotaur in the second rank. So that is why they are basically placed in the dart. I think that the placement of the beer giant, beast giant with the beer barrel on the left side of the field is quite good. It zones quite effectively against the Knights of the A-line Reavers and the Archers. The Giant doesn't care too much about the Archers, I think, because the Archers on long range they hit on a 4+, they wound them on a 6. So that could be 1 wound per turn, which would mean that over 6 turns the Giant's gonna get 6 wounds. And then he's not dead even. So even if he just distracts the Archers, that's already still fine, I think. But then again, the Archers also don't have any other really interesting targets other than the Gortag, maybe. Then the advance of the Highborn Elves, the infantry are being pushed up very aggressively. I think I would estimate that if you get the Wildhorn herd with the character, together with the Minotaurs or the Razorgore in the Phoenix, in the Flame Wardens, I might expect them to go through, because the Flame Wardens, they are going to hit first after the Beast Lord, maybe. They are going to hit the Wildhorns on 3+, because they have parry, I believe, with shields, I guess. So it's going to be like 10 hits. It's going to be with resilience 4, 5 wounds. It's fine. And then the Beast Lord probably kills 1 or 2 Flame Wardens. Then the unit kills 1, maybe 2 more. If you also get the Minotaur or the Razorgore in, then I would assume that you go through the unit. I don't know what the distance is, but it looks to be something like maybe 14 inches, so maybe that is a bit of a disadvantage here. However, in this way, the Beasthead player can also still just casually relax, reorganize his lines according to the aggressiveness of the Highborn Elf player. Because with a first turn like this for the Highborn Elves, I would expect the second turn to seem similar. I believe they're at 14 inches, yeah. In the sense that I would expect the Highborn Elf player to charge in this turn, and that is indeed what he's going to do. It's a risky play because, well, now everything is lined up to countercharge, basically. So if he does make most of these charges, then he's in for a good game, and if he doesn't, it's going to be quite tricky for him, probably. I mean, the Chariot and the Minotaurs, that's already really risky because you have to rely on the inflicted. I don't know if I'm correct at saying that they were going to go there. It could also be the Swordmasters that go in the Minotaurs. That would make more sense. If they fail, there's not a big loss, basically. So then you have the Flame Wardens going into the Wildhorn together with the 2 chariots, I guess. And the Spearmen in the Mongrel herd. That would make sense. And out of that, we see that one of the chariots makes it and the rest doesn't. However, the Swordmasters, they also do make it against the Minotaur. And on the left flank, the Beast Giant is going to have a good time against some Reavers, I guess. I don't know the combat stats of this Sky Sloop. I would assume that probably this is the turn that the Beast Giant has to break for the Highborn Elf player, because otherwise the Beast Giant is just going to wreck everything on the left flank. However, the Beast Giant is going to be steadfast because he has Strider Forest. Because it's not only standard infantry that loses steadfast in a forest, right? Maybe also just gigantic stuff. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But the Giant seems to be in the forest. Luckily, Beast herds have Strider on everything for forest, so he's going to be steadfast anyway. So either it's a dead Giant, or it's going to be dead Highborn Elves. Then in the middle with the chariot, I would expect that the chariot has to break from combat. The swordmasters, they do mop up the minotaurs, which is also as expected, I would say. Um, and then apparently the beast giant either dies or, well, breaks away from combat. Um, yeah, that was to me unexpected, but I don't know how many wounds were already placed on the beast giant. Then I guess at this point it's the beast herd's turn. Um, it would be a pity if the chariot actually made it in there and stayed in combat. I mean, there is the character with the beast axe in there. You have 3 ranks. You have a banner. I would expect them to just be able to get rid of that chariot quite easily, to be honest. Also, with the reroll to hit that beast herds often get with their primal fury. So, with the current state of the board, I would say that the Highborn Elves, they took quite a big risk in the first turn of the game. And yeah, it actually worked out quite well with the chariot still locking up the wild ones. If the second chariot had gone in, yeah, it would have been probably a bit better, but still, I don't know. It looks a bit like a very eager way to play the game. Because these long charges with infantry, they can sometimes work, but if they don't work, well, you're gonna get this. So right now the Highborn Elves are being charged basically by everything that is a good counter against the units by the Beast Huts player. So the Gortar goes against the Phoenix, the Flaming Wardens. I'm gonna make the mistake so many times still. So yeah, the Flame Wardens are up against the Gortar. I would say that this is going to be quite a good matchup for the Gortar because he's only being wounded on 6s unless Perception of Strength is on one of the both. But then, yeah, you're looking at 6 attacks with Battle Focus Hatred, so that should normally be 6 hits with quite some guarantee in there of getting the 6 hits because you have the reroll to hit. You have the Thunderstomp, so in total you would be looking at like 10 wounds before Aegis. You also still have the D3 impact hits, I think he does. So yeah, 10 wounds before Aegis. If you half that, that's like 5 wounds. Maybe if you get lucky, 6. If you were to get 6 wounds, then you have 6 wounds. You have a charge, so that's 7, and they only have a rank and a banner, so that would be -5. But they are steadfast, so they are going to stick around for a turn probably. But then the Gortar will just grind them down quite effectively normally. Yeah, so otherwise I think that the Highborn Elf player took a bit of a too big risk with the Beast Giant on the left. However, I mean, with games like these, it's also like the benefit that you get from certain choices can be so big. So if the opponent, if the Highborn Elf player didn't choose to go in with his Sky Sloop and the E-Line Reavers into the Beast Giant, then he would have had to deal with it in another way. And I think still that the Beast Giant could have been angled towards the main center of the board instead of being oriented towards the flanks, I guess, because if you get a flank charge, it doesn't really bother the Beast Giant right there because you are steadfast, and I would just have guessed that I would have left the Beast Giant alone on the left flank and just went past him rather than to try to take him out with the risk of just killing your own units, basically. Yeah, then the Highborn Elves turn 3. So the Swordmasters, they get lucky again and they get to go into the Mongol Raiders. Probably that's because the Beast Hearts player didn't want them to go into the flank of the Wild Horns. And otherwise, yeah, the citizen spears are engaged, the flame wardens are engaged. I presume it's the prince, the commander on the chariot that's now in the mongrel raiders, mongrels, or the chariot prince is already gone. It's one of the two, but yeah, it basically it looks like combat is being started. First rounds of combat have happened, and the beast herds are still there. Normally, beast herds are a bit better in the grind than Highborn elves, even though Highborn elves are still the armored versions of the elves, more notably. Um, but at this point, it's quite hard to tell yet which side has the advantage at this point. Um, of course, the beast herds they are in a bit of a tricky situation, just mostly because the entire board is kind of congested, but they do still have the 5-man unit of gargoyles to chap something up somewhere. And such a big wild one block is still quite potent. Even if the swordmasters go in, then they're gonna have 18 attacks that hit on 3+, that wound on 3+, if I'm right. So that would be like 8 wounds. If you would put the wilder ones in Horde, I think you should at that point. There's still 25 models. So there's still 25 models minus 8 is gonna be like 16. You're gonna have 4+2 hit with a reroll. So it's going to be 12 hits. It's going to be 8 wounds back also on the Swordmasters. So you lose that first round because you don't have ranks. You can also take your ranks, yeah, and then you have less attacks. But yeah, I would assume that you win the matchup basically. There you go, there's the gargoyle move. So I don't know if you should actually maybe leave the Swordmasters to charge and just block the I don't know if you need to block anything there. You need to block the Swordmasters going into the Gortak, that's for sure. Because yeah, the Gortak he does like to grind down infantry. However, 18 strength 5 attacks that hit him on a 2-up. That is not good. That's not good. That's definitely not good. It seems like the Gortak is not really performing as well as it could be doing, because over 2 rounds of combat, only 12 of the Flame Wardens have disappeared, or 3 rounds of combat even. So that could have been a bit better. Then the mongrels, they are supporting now the raiding chariot, razor core chariot. That seems to be going quite well for the beast herds. Yeah, but I mean the Highborn elves, they really do try to put the combat on the beast herds, and the beast herds they take casualties definitely, but they also seem to survive quite well. So the Knights of Rima on the right, I presume they're fleeing, and there's still the centaurs chasing them, and then the Longhorns that came out of ambush before. Then the Gortach breaks. Okay, so he has been in combat with the Phoenix, with the Flame there we go again. With the Flame Wardens for a couple of rounds, and then he breaks from combat. Okay. Apparently, it wasn't really the day for the Gortach then, because normally he should just be able to grind that one out. With the wound recovery, that is also really strong at 3,000 points. That should really be doable for a Gortak. With 6 attacks and D6 Thunderstorm, yeah, that should definitely be doable. Because the only combat rest that he's looking up against is a banner and a rank. Maybe the Flame Wardens did a wound, maybe 2. then normally you would still have to be able to kill them. 4 wounds seems fine. And even if you don't manage, then he still has a stubborn on a 9. So it was then still quite unlucky to not keep the Gotar in combat. Yeah, so the Swordmasters, they quickly mop up the Gargoyles, which is what is to be expected. Then the Flame Wardens. I could imagine that this is a combat where... Well, the Beast Lord is also in the unit, and he has Discipline 9, I believe. So they're going to be... are they going to be steadfast? No, they're not going to be steadfast, because the Flame Wardens actually have a rank. Yeah, okay. So at lower point values, the dice sometimes spike also a bit more, I find. Just because extreme dice are a bit more effective in terms of the results. And I don't know if this was really a case of extreme dice, but it seems like there were a couple of things going on there that were quite unlucky for the Beast Heads player. Because I think after the second turn of the Highborn Elves, where after the second charge phase of the Highborn Elves, I would have given game to the Beast Herds, basically, because the Chariot was in combat with the Wild Horns, with the Beast Axe character. Yeah, I would have given it to the Beast Herds, definitely, because the Beast Herds were going to be able to charge basically where they wanted, to maneuver the lines. And yeah, the Highborn Elves, they blew their shot at getting that. However, it turns out that Flame Wardens are just really good against the Gotar. Who knew? Okay, so that's going to be the report. I think it's going to be it's small win for the or maybe a big win actually for the Highborn Elves. Let me see how many points there's still on the board. So there's 400 for the Flame Wardens. There's I don't see the Knights of Rima anymore. So there's, I guess there's still a total of like 1200 points or so. And then for the Beast Herds, it's probably like 500 points, maybe a bit more. Yeah, that's definitely a win for the Highborn Elves, and the scenario seems to be a draw. So yeah, Highborn Elf win. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time.